Welcome to HB Reddit Stories. Today we will see stories of r/am I the a-hole. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom it wasn't cute or funny to dress me as a hot dog instead of a princess? So there's this new Target commercial going around where a little girl dresses as a hot dog, and it came on while my family was watching a scary movie. I, 20F, am home from college for the weekend and brought my boyfriend, and my mother, 57F, decided it would be hilarious to mention that she'd made me a hot dog costume as a kid, except the way she told the story, it was my request. She said that all the girls wanted to be Disney princesses, but I had asked to be a hot dog, and so she'd gone out of her way to make me that costume. This is not what happened, and I said as much. What actually happened is that I wanted to be Snow White, and had told everyone, including the teachers, that I was going to be Snow White. I was obsessed with that movie as a kid, to the point where I would actually get invested in doing chores because I was cleaning up just like Snow White. My dad and I would watch that movie all the time, and I was very excited to be Snow White for Halloween, especially because my ballet studio was doing a special princess dance for Halloween and we'd all signed up for special princess slots, and I'd shown up early with my dad the week before so I could get to be Snow White. My mother decided that she wanted to be quirky and that Snow White was a bad role model after I got in trouble for trying to cook dinner for my family. I was about 8, and I tried to make hot dogs, like how she made food for the dwarves in the movie, and I made a mess. My mom surprised me on the day of with this crappy hot dog suit, and told me if I didn't wear it she'd never let me watch Snow White again. She took a million pictures, the other girls teased me for months, and it was one of the most humiliating moments of my childhood. I told the real story, and mentioned that I got through the day by pretending that she was the evil queen making me dress in rags, but the rags happened to be a garbage meat costume. She got really quiet after that, and after we left, my brother says she was crying and looking at the pictures from that Halloween. I didn't want to make my mom cry, but it's a crappy memory for me and it felt like she was trying to humiliate me all over again in front of my boyfriend. TLDR, I called my mom out for forcing me to be a hot dog for Halloween and humiliating me as a child after she brought up the story pretending I'd wanted to be. Am I the a-hole? Top comments. Not the a-hole. Wow, what a crap move by your mom and to an 8-year-old. I'm glad you told the truth and stood up for yourself. I hope she learns. Geez, what a witch. I'm sorry that happened. OP replies. I hadn't thought about it in ages until I saw that commercial. Honestly. Not the a-hole. She clearly had a different perspective and you set her straight. Just because someone cries doesn't mean they're the victim in this. Especially if the truth is that not only did you not want to wear the hot dog, but she threatened your favorite movie as a result? Wear this or else? Like what the F? If this is true, it's pretty weird and messed up. I'd never force a costume on my child. That's such a weird but thing to do. OP replies. She hated Snow White. And Cinderella and Aurora. She was kind of okay with Belle, and really pushed Mulan and Merida on me, but those weren't the ones I was interested in. She generally hated everything I liked, and was really into the whole Cinderella ate my daughter thing. She wanted us to be allies against the other moms of the town we lived in, and I just wanted her to be like the other moms honestly because they were nicer. Next story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my mother out of my wedding after she brought my ex as her +1? I am 30, started seeing June, F29, about 3 years ago. My mother has never really liked June for a couple reasons, the main one being the fact that June didn't let my mom push her around. She kept firm boundaries which I really admired and she even helped me do the same. My mom hated this, calling June controlling and wishing I hadn't broken up with my previous girlfriend Margot, who my mom loved. I was with Margot for 5 years and it was horrible. Margot was very controlling and manipulative and always guilted me into things I wasn't comfortable with. But thanks to support from friends and my sister, I was able to leave her. It was hard, but I had help and my life has improved since. My mom was very upset with this, but relationships didn't last so she eventually let it go until I started dating June about a year later. When June and I announced our engagement, my mom didn't freak out, which was weird considering my mom hates June. She was very calm, but I just took it as she was finally accepting this, and so I didn't think much of it. Everything was fine and smooth up until the wedding. I gave both my parents +1s to the wedding since they both remarried after I graduated college. So I'm not close to their spouses, but gave them the option of inviting them. We had a very small ceremony. Just immediate family and a few close friends. After the ceremony, me and June went to take pictures and then met back with everyone we invited to the reception, which was pretty big. When we got there, my sister and June's best friend/maid of honor ran up to us in a panic. Before they even said anything, I spotted it. My mom was at the table with my dad, my dad's wife, and Margot. I wanted to freak, but June kept me calm. I walked over, pulled them both aside, and simply told them to leave. My mom tried to explain Margot and I are soulmates and June is just in the way of true love, but I wasn't hearing it. I didn't care. Just got my best friends to escort them out and I returned to the party where luckily, after a few moments, I was able to relax and enjoy it. I really didn't think this would all turn into something huge, but me and June just got back from our honeymoon where we didn't have our phones, and seeing mine I saw hundreds of texts from multiple family members. They all think I was an a-hole for kicking my mom out of her only son's wedding. For the record, she was there for the ceremony but apparently was really upset she was kicked from the reception. Here's a summary of my family's thoughts. Some think I could have just ignored Margot and didn't have to freak out. A few others, including my dad, think I should have just kicked Margot and let my mom stay, but after the stunt my mom pulled, I didn't want her there either. I'm starting to second-guess myself since everyone is really mad. June and my sister are on my side, but I fear my dad may be right and I should have just let my mom stay and made Margot leave. So, am I the a-hole? Top comments. Not the a-hole. My wife and I will not be starting our marriage life together tolerating disrespect and sabotage. Mom's actions were beyond reprehensible, disgusting, and more than deserving of being removed from the celebration of my beautiful wife and I committing our lives to each other. You are more than welcome to allow toxic people to destroy your happy moments, but this is not something I will tolerate for myself or my wife. Not the a-hole. Kicking Margot out would not have been enough. Side note, who TF goes to their ex's wedding with his mom? Psycho, your mother actively tried to sabotage your wedding. She brought an abusive ex and then said your new wife was in the way. That's appalling. She deserved to be kicked out and your family should acknowledge that she clearly didn't want to be there. She wanted to hurt you and your wife. Not the a-hole. Why would you have let your mom stay? She was disrespectful to both you and your wife and your wedding. She said mean things about your wife on your wedding day at the wedding. She would have complained the rest of the reception about you kicking Margot out and ruined it for both you and your wife. So again, why? Why are you in contact with her at all actually? Next story. Am I the a-hole if I refuse to donate my PTO to a coworker I know will die? I work healthcare and our department is pretty close-knit, not much drama or beef surprisingly. One of our ladies we found out has cancer. Docs haven't given her the absolute certainty she's terminal yet, but I'm sure with her age and comorbidities she's definitely going to be. Everyone has been very supportive, but we all know where this is going. She and I aren't very fond of each other, but I'm entirely professional and have expressed my feelings of sadness for her situation. Many of the hospital staff, nearly everyone in our department has donated paid leave for her to take time off and spend with her family. She used hers regularly and has almost none apparently, and possibly received treatment, except me. People have asked why I didn't and I just don't want to. I feel like it's throwing it away for an outcome I'm all but certain will happen. I'm not saving it for any particular reason. People in her circle have started talking about how I'm not actually sympathetic to her situation and mumbling little things here and there. I usually just tell them straight up it's a waste for me to give it to someone who I don't believe will give them more time to live. Just spend what time you have left with family and friends and be thankful for that. I'm unaware of her financial situation and frankly it doesn't concern me. Edit. My employer isn't making it known who donates, it's a group of people that started a sign-up sheet type thing for her. Probably to be given to her later. Edit 2, we do have FMLA but it is unpaid. You must burn through a certain amount of PTO days or have none before disability kicks in, and it's only 60% I believe. Top comments. The employer is clearly making this information public so other employees can pressure their peers into doing something the employer should be doing instead. It is shameful we work our whole lives in the US and have to beg for time off and feel badly about it. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole for not giving her your leave, but you are the a-hole for the way you said it. You don't owe her your PTO. You aren't obliged to fund her, but it would be a nice thing to do. But you were an a-hole for saying it's a waste because you think she's going to die. Just because you think she's going to die doesn't mean she's actually for sure going to die. You calling it a waste also makes the remainder of her life seem like a waste. That isn't kind or true, and people aren't going to agree with that unempathetic stance, especially because you work in healthcare. Calling it wasteful also discounts the favor your coworkers are doing by donating. You could have just said you couldn't donate for financial or personal reasons. Your coworkers don't need to be involved in your finances, and you could have chosen to not disclose that information or explanation at all, and that would be fair. What you said was the worst possible option. Huge, you are the a-hole. Because you're intentionally asking the wrong question. No, don't give up PTO, of course not. But also, oh my God, you should not be telling everyone how much of a waste you think it is because you think her dying makes her unworthy of your PTO. Just say you don't want to. Say anything else. Has anyone taught any of you to decline an ask without being unnecessarily cruel and nasty about it? Not the a-hole for not donating because you don't owe her anything, but the way you talk about it, you absolutely do come across as callous and unempathetic to this woman. I wouldn't be surprised if your coworkers have feelings about that and there's some fallout. You're also setting the standard to make sure no one at work does you any favors. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to take my turn hosting family dinners after everyone always bails on mine? I, 24F, come from a family that values big Sunday dinners, and we've always rotated between whose house we gather at. The idea is that everyone contributes by hosting one of these dinners, but recently, it feels like I'm the only one actually holding up my end of the bargain. Every time it's my turn to host, my siblings and even my parents seem to come up with last-minute excuses to skip. The last time I prepared a full meal, my sister canceled an hour before because she wasn't feeling well, and my brother had work stuff. I spent hours prepping and even made special dishes that everyone usually loves. This has happened several times now, and I'm starting to feel like my effort isn't being appreciated. Last week, it was my mom's turn to host, and everyone showed up, no excuses, no last-minute cancellations. Now, my turn is coming up again, and I don't feel like going through all the effort when no one ever shows up. When I told my family that I was thinking of skipping my turn and letting someone else host, they got upset. My dad said I was being dramatic and that it's just how family is sometimes, but I can't help but feel like I'm always the one getting the short end of the stick. Am I the a-hole for refusing to host family dinners when no one ever shows up to mine? Top comments. If you decide to host anyway, make a big pot of chili that you can freeze if they don't come. Or something else you can freeze. If they complain, just say mention the last time, and you would not waste food again. Do the dinner 1 or 2 times again. 2, because after you mentioned it to them, they will try to be on better behavior. Not the a-hole. You could just agree to host then, at the last minute, cancel because you are sick and have work stuff. OP replies. Huh, that's definitely tempting. It'd be kind of poetic justice, but honestly, I don't think I could bring myself to do it. I just want things to feel more equal instead of resorting to games. I'll definitely have to think about how to handle it from here. So are you saying that there have been multiple instances in which you invited the whole family to dinner, they said they were coming, you spent lots of time and effort preparing dishes specially intended for them, and then everyone canceled on you at the last minute? That's bonkers. Not to mention utterly disrespectful of your efforts. Definite not the a-hole, and you should tell anyone trying the "but family" card on you that you think family should show up to an event you planned for them after they told you they would be there. OP replies. You got it. This has happened multiple times now. I've spent hours preparing special dishes and making sure everything was perfect, only for everyone to cancel at the last minute. It's incredibly frustrating and feels so disrespectful. I completely agree. If family means showing up for each other, they should stick to their word when they say they'll be there. Thanks for the support. Not the a-hole, especially if this is happening often. I'd invite them again, and when everyone arrives, have a few appetizers and order pizza, once you know how many people are there. Then you aren't putting out much effort or cost up front. And if anyone complains, remind them that you've on multiple occasions made a whole big dinner and none or few show up. OP replies. Thanks for the suggestion. I like the idea of keeping things simple next time, maybe just some appetizers or ordering pizza, so I'm not putting in so much effort up front. If they still bail, at least I won't feel like I've wasted time and energy. And if they do show up, maybe I can bring up the issue of how often this has been happening to make sure we're all on the same page. Next story. Am I the a-hole for blaming my dad and stepmother for my stepsiblings thinking they would get a grandkid inheritance? My dad and stepmother got married when I, 17F, was 7 and my brother, 19M, was 9. My stepmother had 2 kids of her own who were 2 and 4 at the time. Our other parents are dead. Their dad and my mom. Their dad died while my stepmother was pregnant. My mom died 19 months before Dad remarried. The only extended family my brother and I had was our mom's side, and when Dad remarried he insisted my stepsiblings had to be included or they couldn't see us. Grandparents' rights were not available at the time, so my grandparents agreed, but they made it clear to Dad they were only including our steps because they loved us and wanted to see us. So whenever we saw our grandparents, my stepsiblings did, and they grew really attached despite my grandparents never feeling any different. My stepsiblings were a way to see my brother and me, not more grandkids or family in any way to my grandparents. It was the same for the rest of my extended family. They were treated fine, but they were never loved or wanted. Grandpa died in 2020 and my grandma died a month ago. Grandpa's funeral was done over Zoom, but Grandma's wasn't. My stepmother tried to send my stepsiblings up to the grandkids section at the funeral, but an aunt and uncle stepped in and said it was only for grandkids. After the non-religious service, each grandkid got our grandkid inheritance, which was a lovingly made memory book that our grandparents did for us and had entries up until the day before Grandma died. My stepsiblings got nothing. This devastated them, and there has been an atmosphere ever since. My dad and stepmother are furious and went crazy on my aunts and uncles about letting it happen. Then my dad told me I needed to show some sibling love and loyalty and take a stand against my extended family, but I refused. My dad told me that wasn't okay and that I could not be so selfish. My stepmother said I owed it to my stepsiblings. I told them none of this was my fault and I would not turn away from my family over it. They said I was by choosing my extended family. I told them they are my family. I will not push them away. They said it was cruel what they let happen. I said it was their, dad and stepmother's, fault in the first place. I told my stepmother she knew my grandparents only included her kids because they wanted to see me and my brother and that Dad had made them do it. I said they should never have let the kids believe they were grandkids to my grandparents. They were the cruel ones, and knowing my family had never loved the kids. And I said I would not stand against my family over this. They flipped over me, blaming them, and they said my brother and I lacked empathy and compassion like our extended family did. Am I the a-hole? Top comments. Info: The Inheritance is a memory book. That's very sweet and sentimental. And unlike money, it can't just be redivided or shared. How are you being selfish? How are you supposed to take a stand? Against whom? How? For what? Something sentimental your grandparents made for you? I'm so confused. OP replies. I'm supposed to cut off my extended family because they knew my stepsiblings wouldn't get anything and still passed out the inheritance in front of them. Also for refusing to let my stepsiblings sit with the grandkids at the funeral. And for not loving my stepsiblings in the time they had to be included in order to see me and my brother. I feel really sorry for your stepsiblings, but this is 100% the fault of your father and stepmother. They lied to their kids for years, and the lie came out. And now they're mad at everyone but them. They were the liars. OP replies. Yep. If my dad had accepted my grandparents and extended family wanted to see us, their actual family, none of this would have happened. Instead they got my stepsiblings to build a one-sided relationship. Not the a-hole. Essentially your dad held you and your brother hostage and forced your grandparents to accept and entertain the children of the woman who married their son-in-law, not even 2 years after their daughter's death. What a horrible thing to do. This mess is entirely you dad and stepmom's fault. Did they also force you to call her mom? OP replies. They didn't force it but my dad encouraged it a lot. We never called her mom though. I hope you guys like this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share and subscribe the channel HB Reddit Stories.